Hello, Bravs. We're back with Shakespeare's Sweetheart. I believe we're on chapter 14. Let's see. Now, chapter 15. By the church. That's a nice one. Focus, there you go. Furiously, blindly, I stumbled down the stairs and out into the night. So insensible was I to all things except the inward fire of my jealous rage, that I saw and heard naught until I had been seated for some time on the broad steps of St. Helens. The corner I had chosen was mercifully obscure, and there, crouched upon the unyielding stone, I wept and ground my teeth and clenched my fists in impotent, overwhelming despair. There in the well-lit room, she, the beautiful sorceress, sat with him, while here in the darkness I lay alone. Who and what was she, this shameless, gorgeous woman, who, despite her noble title, her costly attire, came at nightfall, unattended, to a man's lodgings? Why had she come? Wherefore had I been sent away? A flood of conjectures and uncertainties overwhelmed my brain. It was very dark on the church steps, and St. Helens was a quiet district. I was weary and unstrung in mind and body. Beyond a certain point of endurance, even extreme anguish cannot go. At length, nerves and brain alike relaxed. My hard vigil was ended, and I slept. How long I thus forgot my troubles I know not. I awoke suddenly with a start. The church was light now, and within I heard the choir practicing. Fragments of an anthem floated out, interrupted by numerous silences, during which, no doubt, the choir master was explaining and instructing. I lay still an instant, listening dully. They were chanting the Magnificat. He hath showed strength with his arm. He hath scattered the proud in the imagination of their hearts. Thrice were the words repeated, each time with some slight change in rendering, due probably to the choirmaster's suggestion. The third time I noticed languidly that one of the church doors had been left open, and that the brightness from within streamed past the corner where I crouched, out into the street itself. My eyes followed the shaft of light, and I sprang upright with a cry. In its full radiance stood the Countess, looking at me. Her crimson draperies seemed, in my excited imagination, to radiate flames. When she saw me looking at her in scorn and abhorrence, she held out her hands beseechingly. "Cesario, thou cruel one," she barely breathed in a tone of tenderest reproach. "Where hast thou been all these long, long weeks?" I raised my hands to shut out the sight of her despicable beauty, her devilish charm. "Thou hast 2 victims already, madam," I said, and I took no pains to hide my disgust and hatred. "Thou shalt not have a third." I returned to my master, and I moved the step to pass her. She spread out her arms to bar my way. I could not go without creating an outcry. I paused. She seized my hand in both of hers, and I felt her burning lips upon it. "Ah, Cesario," she whispered, "how beautiful are even contempt and anger on thy lips. Nor all my wit nor reason can hide my passion for thee. Cesario, be not cruel. Men have deemed me beautiful. Canst not love me a little, even a little, Cesario? Many have sued me. Behold, I lay my heart at thy feet. It is thine. Wilt thou spurn it?" The choir in the church had been silent for a space. Now they burst forth into the next strain of the Magnificat. He hath put down the mighty from their seat, and hath exalted the humble and meek. Methinks I was half mad with rage and despair, or else the devil himself tempted me in the Countess's guise. At any rate, a fiendish plan entered my mind that instant, a cruel scheme, since it involved the happiness of 3 others, and would make my lot no better. Yet my idea seemed sweet to me then, because it spelled revenge. The holy words pealed forth again joyously. He hath put down the mighty from their seat, and hath exalted the humble and meek. I looked at the Countess, bending her proud head before me, and a triumphant smile touched my lips. Now I shudder to think how I applied the meaning of those sacred words, first spoken for so holy a reason. But then they seemed sent from heaven to suggest to me my vengeance. The Countess looked up and saw my smile. Her face lighted with joy, and she drew closer to me. Thou wilt love me, Cesario? Thou wilt. She hesitated an instant. Wilt thou even wed me? Listen, madam, I said, and I put my arm around her, repugnant as the touch of her sinuous body was to me. She gave a cry of joy at my embrace, and clung to me. Beseech thee, think a moment, thou knowest me not. Remember, I warn thee, thou knowest me not. Some last fragment of compunction made me give her this hint. She was too blinded by her infatuation, however, to heed my words. It matters not, she murmured, and she laid her dusky head upon my shoulder. It matters not who thou art, I love thee. Enough, then, madam, I responded. I stood holding her in my arms, my eyes staring straight forward in cold, unseeing fashion. As I elaborated my plan, enough, I make thee, then, this promise. At Michaelmas I will go to church with thee. She gave a little cry, half delight, half disappointment. So long to wait. Ah, Cesario, why not tomorrow? Because, madam, I answered steadily, neither Count William nor my master must know aught of this until after. After I have been at church with thee. I held carefully to the phrase I had chosen. At Michaelmas, it is rumored that her gracious majesty will request a performance of Romeus and Juliet at the palace. If that prove true, I am bound to act Juliet. I cannot go to church with thee until that day. But why, she whispered, why not wed me tomorrow and let the marriage remain a secret until Michaelmas? Because, madam, I said again, because after I have been at church with thee, methinks I shall not act Juliet nor any other part again. She looked at me in deep thought, her eyes narrowing. For an instant she seemed again the haughty, wary creature I had seen beneath the willows at Stratford. Then her face relaxed, and she smiled and sighed together. No wonder she could play with men's hearts. Be it so, she whispered low, in that voice which was liquid music. She laid her head upon my shoulder once again. Cesario, Cesario, must I do all the wooing? Give me my betrothal kiss. I bent my lips and touched hers calmly. Until Michaelmas, then. Adieu, Countess, I said. She drew herself erect instantly. Until Michaelmas, she repeated. Shall I not see thee until then? Oh, Cesario, be not cruel. No, madam, I answered firmly, for on this point I was determined to have my way, else the rest of my plans might miscarry. Bethink thee, and thou wilt see that I am wise. Should we be meeting constantly, suspicion assuredly would be aroused. We desire no hint of our undertaking to escape until Michaelmas. She bent her beautiful head and stood a moment in troubled silence, biting her red lips and clenching her hands. At length she roused herself with a sigh. Thou art right, she said. Thou art right, Cesario. Farewell, then, until we meet again on the morning of Michaelmas. Let our wedding take place at Paul's. 'Tis a church I love well. I agreed, for it mattered little what place she chose for a marriage that would never take place. Again she offered me her lips. Until Michaelmas, adieu, she murmured as I once more kissed her. Then she went down the church steps, her crimson gown brilliant in the light that streamed from the still open door. The choir had finished the Magnificat. I'm sure I'm butchering the pronunciation, long since, but now they were going over bits that the exacting master had found unsatisfactory. As the Countess, brilliant as an evil spirit, lithe as a panther, passed from my view, these words floated after her. He hath filled the hungry with good things, and the rich he hath sent empty away. I fell upon my knees in a sudden revulsion of feeling. There, yonder she went, the rich woman, and how empty was the prospect towards which she looked with joy so delirious. And I kneeling here upon the church steps, ah, how good was the revenge which satisfied the hunger of my hatred. Very hungry. Goodbye, bruv. Goodbye.